Apple has just finished its October 23rd media event, and by the time you see this, it will have been a few hours ago that it finished. And it started off in classic Apple style with Tim Cook coming out and kind of doing an overview of what's happened with Apple over the last year. And he starts off with the iPhone, of course, and talks about how the iPhone has now sold over 5 million iPhones, and that's in September. And he goes on right away into a little video which talks about the Apple stores and how Apple stores have revolutionized stores and how they've got some of the best customer service and obviously he thinks some of the best products as well. And the video shows a whole bunch of people lining up to get the iPhone 5 and all excited coming out of the Apple store. Of course, in class, we've seen videos like this before where people are holding the product up and kind of running out of the store in craziness, Apple feverness, as I should say. And then he goes right into talking about the new iPod Nano and iPod Touch, saying that it is their fastest selling line of iPods to date, with over 3 million sold thus far since its recent release in September. So that's pretty a good amount. And how iOS 6 is now running on over 200 million devices. So that's a lot of iOS 6 devices. I personally haven't downloaded that myself with my iPhone 4, but 200 million is a lot. And Tim also talks about the integration of iOS 6 and Mountain Lion and how those documents in the cloud are working. And now they have over 125 million Mountain Lion downloads as well. And they're using documents in the cloud, which is ever growing. Now, his next stat was 275,000 iPad apps, which have been optimized just for the iPad. That's out of 35 billion apps. There's been 207 apps downloaded, 275,000 of those apps are just for the iPad, which kind of hints at what's going to come later on, as we all know. One of the cool things that he did talk about, though, is the upgrade in iBooks. So some of the new features in the new iBooks, which is available today, is continuous scrolling. So instead of turning the page, you can just scroll up and down and see what you're get the content that you want to read. Night view, so if you're reading in, at nighttime, instead of having a bright screen, which is kind of blinding, it will actually have a black background, which will be easier on the eyes and white writing. And it's also better integrated with iCloud. So if you're reading a book, on your way to work on your iPhone and you get home and you want a bigger screen, it will basically where you left off, it'll find that on your iPad and you can just continue reading on that. And probably their most unique feature is the integration of support on Facebook and Twitter with iBooks. So if you find a quote in a book that you really like, you can put it as your Facebook status or post it on a wall or on a friend's wall or just update it to your Twitter account, quotes that you like in your favorite books, which is kind of a neat little extra feature. Probably something you won't find a lot of people using, but you never know. Then basically he brings out Phil Schiller, who talks about how the Mac has been outgrowing the PC market for 6 years now. And Phil Schiller talks about, at this point, introduces the new Macs. And he starts with the 13-inch MacBook Pro, and he notes that the 13-inch series within their MacBook Pro line has been their best-selling MacBook Pro to date, which is one of the reasons why they wanted to upgrade it with a Retina display. And not only are they putting the Retina display in, but they're making it 20% thinner, and it's also going to weigh 3.5 pounds, which is 1 pound less than the last generation of MacBook Pro. Now, one of the things that makes it lighter is that there's going to be no optical drive, and in its stead is going to be an SD card slot. Of course, if you do want to buy the optical drive, you can get an add-on for $79 and do it that way. But most people won't need that these days. So it does, again, have the Retina display. So it is joining the 15-inch MacBook Pro with its Retina display. So here's a couple pictures. And, he kind of goes over how the applications that are run on Mountain Lion, or which will be the program that it comes with, do support a lot of those apps. Like the apps are going to be Retina display will be supported with Retina display, so you will get high quality images in most of those apps. Now, one of the other new things with this 13-inch MacBook Pro is the 720p HD FaceTime camera, which is nice. Now, here are a couple pictures that he shows of the inside of the new MacBook Pro. Now, it kind of looks like some kind of weird monster face thing. Anyways, here's a few of the specs and features that the inside has. And it will also come with a 7-hour battery life, which is nice. A cool feature that they have introduced is the power nap, so it will update and back up while sleeping. So if you have a time capsule, update all your information while the computer's asleep now, which is neat. Now here's some of the pricing. So an i5 dual core starts at $1699. Ooh, that's a little expensive. And that will ship today. And here's the pricing list of their lineup of their MacBook Pros and, of course, their MacBook Air. And then Apple shows some of the environmental specs, as they always like to do. He quickly talks about the Mac Mini and how the Mac Mini is often used as a server, and they do have a server version, which is going to be $999. And, of course, a couple upgrades with Core i5 and i7 to the existing models, so they're just kind of upgrading some of the software to it. It all looks the same though, so nothing huge there. Phil then talks about the evolution of the iMac. And now this is kind of big because iMac hasn't had an upgrade in a while. And if you remember, here's a picture of the old see-through Mac, which was kind of cool, looked like a spaceship. And here's a picture of the previous 6 iMacs. So you can see with each generation it gets better and slimmer, faster, nicer, and the new one is going to fit in very well. And here's a picture of the new iMac. Now this iMac is 5 millimeters thin at the edge, but if you look in the middle where Apple calls it the neck of the computer, it is a little bit thicker. So it is a trick of the eye. So the edge is thin and then the middle kind of gets thicker, kind of like some of those HD TVs. But nonetheless, it is going to be lighter. It's going to be 8 pounds lighter. So it's going to be, only 8 pounds, so quite a bit lighter. And they use friction stir welding, which means that the aluminum is binding together more closely, which makes it stronger. And again, you can see there's no optical drive on this computer. So again, you can opt out to buy that $79 extra optical drive if need be. Here's a couple pictures of inside the computer and some of the specs and features of it. Now the 21.5-inch will not ship until November, and the 27-inch will be ready in December. So again, here's some I/O pictures for that. Apple talked about their new integration of the Fusion drive, which will exist in the new iMacs. And this technology actually has existed for a while, but what it basically does is it marries flash storage with HDD drive. So, for example, it will have both in this computer. So if you're the applications that you use the most will be moved over to the flash drive, and the ones that you don't will stay on the HD drive. So, for example, if you're using iMovie, it'll be moved to the flash drive, and it kind of partitions it. And here's a picture of what that will look like. Again, not new technology, but it's nice to see this coming into the iMac, and it's kind of a nice add-on. And this iMac is going to use 50% less energy, which is quite nice. Then Tim Cook comes out and does a little breakdown of the iPad. He talks about some of the numbers. There's been over 100 million iPads sold in the 2.5 years since iPad was first introduced, which is a lot of iPads sold. That iPad was a game changer for the education market and is continuing to be a game changer, with 80% of textbooks now available on iPad, with multi-touch widgets, and now even businesses and business markets are kind of testing and deploying iPads. So there's been a huge following now from the business market as well as from education, and their education component keeps driving that forward, which is probably why 100 million is, why they were able to sell that many. it is quite a spectacular tablet for sure. Phil Schiller then comes back out to talk about, surprise, surprise, the 4th generation iPad. Now this 4th generation iPad is going to be running the A6X chip, which supposedly doubles the performance of the iPad as well as the graphics. You can run games a lot more smoother than the 3rd generation iPad. It will also have an image signal processor and the same 10-hour battery life, which is nice, and now supports 720p HD front-facing FaceTime camera with faster Wi-Fi, which is nice. It will also contain, like all the other iOS products that Apple, all the new iOS products Apple has released, is the Lightning connector. So again, Apple is really moving all their technology and all their power supply over to this Lightning connector. Now, iPad will have a couple accessories with this, so you can get some new cables, video in and video out, for, of course, an extra price. And here's a couple pictures of what those will look like. And here's some pricing pictures of what the 4th generation iPad will be. So it's actually going to be the same pricing as iPad 3. And now, as expected, what we see here is a picture of the regular iPad and then behind it the iPad mini. Phil talks about the new iPad mini, and it's going to have the same pixels and all the same software will be able to run on it as the iPad 3rd and 2nd generation. So basically, it's just a regular iPad with a Retina display, and all the same apps will work. It'll just be in a smaller form. It's going to be a 7.9-inch display, and Apple uses that display as the perfect size for something that you can still hold in one hand and still maintain the screen real estate and the beauty of a Retina display. And here's some pictures. I'm going to run through a few pictures of what this will look like. Of course, it comes in both black and white, and the black and white are following the same as the iPhone 5, with the background being, the back being silver on the white one, and then the black anodized backing for the black iPad. So Phil does a little comparison about Android versus the iPad mini and how they're competing with the 7-inch Android devices and how supposedly Apple's is quite a bit better. And he criticizes Android, saying that the Android tablet is just basically scaled up phone apps and that it doesn't meld the software and the hardware and integrate it as an actual native running application for a tablet, and that Apple does that very well. So that's coming from the words from Phil, not from me. So some of the features of the iPad mini will have the A5 chip, so as seen in the iPad 2, as well as the 5-megapixel iSight camera. It will, of course, have the LTE and Wi-Fi capabilities with a 10-hour battery life. And this one will, again, follow with the other Apple iOS devices and have a Lightning port. And here's some pictures inside the new iPad mini, as well as the smart cover. So we'll use the smart cover. So pre-orders can start October 26th. This is something that I may get. It looks really neat. I am still using the original iPad, and the price point is pretty good. Here's a picture of some of the prices. So it is going to really compete. It's right in between. It's a little high for the price point. I mean, it's, if you compare it to a Nexus or a Kindle Fire, which is, $100 or so cheaper, it is going to be a little bit more expensive. But if you're part of that Apple's ecosystem, you may just want to stick with this. It will come in the 16, 32, and 64 gigabyte as well, as you can see. I'm running the original iPad, so this might be a good update for me. I don't know if it's going to be a good upgrade for you. I absolutely will not be getting the iPad 4. I do want something a little more portable. I do like smaller, but not super small devices. I find the iPad, I like the screen size for home, but on the go it can be a bit cumbersome. So is this something that you guys are going to buy? Please let me know. Are you going to get one of these new super slim iMacs? Are you going to get a Retina display MacBook Pro or this new iPad mini? I'd be curious to see what your thoughts are. And thanks for watching, and sorry for this delay. I've had some audio issues with uploading this video. So I hope you enjoy it, and come check out my channel. Talk to you.